Hi there, welcome to the Raven's Call. I'm Eric Wordweaver Sjerven, Gothi of the Ridgar folk here in East Texas, and I'd like to welcome you to this show. This is a show where I ramble on about different heathen-related subjects, just kind of whatever strikes my fancy, sets my mind on fire at the time. Big UPG warning at the top of this, I'm not a hardcore recon, not a fluffy bunny, somewhere in between. I do some very strong recon elements in what I do, but I'm also very much about tribal identity and growing towards the future. Very grassroots heathenry, very individual tribal sovereignty, and that goes along with views of religion and spirituality, the whole thing. It's a thing. So if you follow my channel at all, you know what's up. So if you like what you see, please subscribe, ding the bell, give it a thumbs up, comment down below. All my contact information is down there. I've got email addresses, the Facebook group. There's even a P.O. box down there in case you ever want to send snail mail or anything like that. Letters, artwork, stuff like that, whatever. If you do send artwork in, I'll probably hold it up and show it on the channel, as long as it's not like death threats or something like that. Anyway, so grab my cable. Sorry about that, guys. So we're going to jump into this today, and forgive, it's ragweed season here in Texas, so I'm a little sinusy, but that doesn't stop it. The show must go on. So today we're going to talk a little bit about something that was a viewer request. This was something that was brought up to me recently, in that it's a problem in modern heathenry. And I'm very much about, as you guys have seen in more recent episodes, I'm very much about tribal identity. I'm very much about tribal mythos, the sovereignty of the individual tribes, etc., etc., etc. I am very much an Inengar, Udengar kind of guy. I'm very much a tribal heathen. There are some problems with that, in that tribalism is sometimes seen as a bad thing. And in its extreme, anything is a bad thing. In its extreme, anything can become non-functional. And that's a thing. It can become something that it is not, because it is taken to its extreme and becomes a caricature of what it once was. And so with the tribalist ideal, it's a heavy term to use the term tribalist. It's a catch-all term. But it literally just means that you take a tribal-based view of heathenry. And my definition of tribe is the grouping of a specific culture of people around these individual hearths that are bound together under a central leadership into a agreed-upon identity. This becomes the tribe, this tribe of people. It's a gathering of individual hearths into a group. My tribe is Ridgar. Our culture is Ridgar. That's just how it is for us. Now, it has come to my attention over the years that there is a kind of racial side of the tribalist thing, and I'm not at all in favor of any of that, guys. If you guys have watched my ancestor veneration video, you know I am not down with anything racially biased within heathenry. I think it's out of place and it's inappropriate at best. It's downright insulting in most. False kinship, all of this stuff. I'm big about actual meat and potatoes, real relationships, your actual frith web, your actual communities and involvement. Don't tie yourself to a fictitious people. Don't tie yourself to this meta heathenry. I needed that term in a previous video and couldn't bring it up to save my life, but there it is, meta heathenry. Don't become a slave to meta heathenry. Don't tie yourself imaginarily to some meta heathen thing. It doesn't work that way. Heathenry is about individual cultures. It's about these disparate cultures, and there is this misconception in the modern day to two extremes, to the left and to the right kind of thing. Not necessarily accurate in that respect, but still, there's an extremist thought that tribe is taken to an almost racial end of things. It's taken to an exclusionary point that becomes detrimental to the tribe because they cling to an ideal instead of a practicality and a pragmatism. There is also a flip side to that, where this sense of we all are one kind of thought, this we are one people kind of thing, and it's not in the racial side of things, it's in the more universal side of things. It's the this sense that, well, tribes are imaginary constructs, and then therefore there's no place for them. We're all one people. We need to band together, etc. No. You don't understand. When you melt too much, you lose culture. You lose individual identities, tribal identities. And I'm very much in favor of tribal identity. I am not in favor of misconstruing tribe to mean race, to mean nationality, to mean anything like that. No, my tribe is my tribe, my people. My people being those individual people with whom I share frith, those individual people to whom I have ties of weird. Nobody is in my tribe that I do not know intimately. Just because we're heathen doesn't mean we have anything in common. All right? It doesn't. There are heathens with whom I share almost nothing in common. Interests, region, even our belief structures are somewhat different. We have superficial similarities at best, and we use the term heathen. So you can't imagine that. It's grassroots. It's very in here, And so one of the key elements to it is this innengard, utengard thought line. And I'm a big proponent of the inner yard and the outer yard. Now, it's come to my attention that there is a particular contingent that takes this innengard, utengard mentality to an extreme, to the point of, if you are not innengard, you are needing. You are nothing. And I owe you absolutely nothing. And, to an extent, there's some truth to that, but not in that extreme. Here's the deal. You are not beholden to individuals outside of your yard unless you have particular bonds with them that are, if you have a business arrangement with someone, then you are beholden to them as per the social contract through which you have forged this relationship. You have obligations to other relationships outside of your frith web. It's simply that the frith web obligations trump outside obligations. But sometimes those outside obligations serve to feed the frith web. They serve to support the frith web. And it was always this way. And look back in the olden days, an invading force would come in, and you have the inner yard. You have your innengard, your family, your hearth, your frith web. All right. If you're hanging up on the innengard, utengard terminology, then lose that and think about frith webs, frith yards. If you have your frith yard interacting with other frith yards, then it's the same thing. It's just a yard and a yard. It's whether you call it your inner yard and the outer yard, or you have your yard and they have their yard. It's not anything outside of your yard is utengard. You can interact with other yards in the utengard and still have positive interactions with them. I have tribes all throughout the Midwest that I have positive interactions with. Does that mean they're innengard to me? No, they're utengard. Their outer yard. I do not owe them what I owe my inner yard. That doesn't mean I don't owe them something as based on our particular relationship. That simply means that we do not have bonds close enough to match what I have with my actual frith web and what I owe them. So, in the olden days, if you had an invading king who came in and took over, say, look at Norway in the Heimskringla, you see a flip and flop largely between Norse, because Norway wasn't actually a thing at the time. It's the forging of Norway, the making of Norway. You have regional kings that were forced out, let's say, when Harald Hafager came in and took over, Harald Fairhair, when he conquered Norway and brought everybody underneath him, because he conquered Norway. They'll say that he unified Norway, but of course they did, because they wrote the histories. He conquered Norway. He brought everybody to bear underneath him, and if they didn't come to bear underneath him, he drove them out of the country. He forged the country, the boundaries, and then the boundaries went back and forth for a while, especially with Sweden. And then there were periods of time where the Danes came in and ruled over things and drove out the Fairhair dynasty. They came back, etc., 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 etc. It's a thing, okay? But look at the yard. If you are a farmer, if you are, someone who is working their land, who is tied to their local community, and then you get notice that the king has changed, the only real thing that changes for you in this is maybe some policy, but for the most part, to whom you pay your taxes. That kind of thing, to whom you owe tithe. And that doesn't change the crux of your yard simply because who runs the country has changed. You have the ability to reject this because this is your yard and you can protect your yard. Sometimes you roll with it because it's in the better interest of the yard. Was that king inner yard to these individuals of this country that he has just claimed. No, he's Utengard. He's Utengard to all of them. He's not part of their frithweb. Now, he is part of the social structure that they belong to. Therefore, he is part of an obligation cycle. Frith begins to build as he builds his interactions with these people, establishes these obligations, especially those within his court and the herd, etc., etc. But that doesn't necessarily translate the same thing to the farmer and the peasant out in the fields. Yes, they are beholden now as part of the social structure. They have a choice to rebel or to join in, and frequently they would just join in and roll with it because nothing really changes for them. Think about how many times we change presidents in the U.S. Yes, there's some policy stuff. Yes, we go back and forth on how they're going to lead the country, etc., 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 etc. But I still get up and go to my job. Regardless of whether a Dem or a rep is in the office, I still get up and go to my job the next day. I still go out and work with kids. I still do me. I still do what I need to do. I still tend to my tribe. Now, if somebody came through and wanted to do harm to my tribe, then yes, I'm going to turn on them because it's my tribe and I'm going to protect my tribe, my inner yard, those that I owe more to. That's the thing, okay? It's not like you get to the fence and then everybody outside the fence is dead to you. It doesn't work that way. If you want to interact in the world, you still have relationships with these people. You still owe people hospitality and simple acts of common decency. The idea being that by maintaining these relationships, you build Gefrain. I've done a video on Gefrain recently, and so you guys should know by now that we interact with the outer yard. Gefrain is with the outer yard. That's how that works. If you build Gefrain with another tribe, with these other people, because you show yourself through deed and action to be a man worthy of their respect, etc., 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 a woman worthy of their respect, whatever. You're interacting with the outer yard. From an extremist point of view of Enengard and Udengard, why would you want to do that? From everybody outside of your inner yard is dead to you. They don't owe them anything. You can lie to them, cheat, steal, whatever, it doesn't matter. If you go to that extreme, well, then you become an island. And then you can only depend upon your Enengard. And that's extremely limiting. And I don't know how you would survive doing that. Because then you would cast out, just within the U.S. where we are. Man, if I took a position like that and screwed over everybody outside my inner yard, then I would fall afoul of the law. And if I fell afoul of the law, then I would end up in jail. And if I ended up in jail, I couldn't tend to my people. So in order to uphold my obligation to my people, I need to play nice with the surrounding society. I need to maintain my position with the surrounding society. If I go to work and I'm interacting with these caseworkers and whatnot, and I work with CPS kids, if you can figure it out. If I'm interacting with these caseworkers out there and I take a hard set extremist view of Enengard Udengard, and because they are outer yard to me, they are nothing to me, so I lie to them, I betray them, I don't owe them anything, then that's going to hurt my position in my business. And I'm not going to be able to do what I do, both for the kids that I take care of and for my people whom I use my paycheck to support. So I am beholden to these individuals because I need this relationship to work. That the need fire is there. And so I maintain my obligations to them. I'm contractually obligated to a lot of things as far as the business goes. I betray those, I fall afoul of the law again. Or I get cast out of this social construct that I need to belong to in order to support my Enengard. Does this make sense now? I feel like this particular one is redundant because I've already covered all of these things in bits and pieces elsewhere, but I've never really shined a flashlight directly on this extremist point of view with regards to Enengard or Udengard. We all see the extremist views with racism, with the gender stuff, with sexuality, all that. Everybody gets up in arms about their extremist views and all that. Again, I'm not very extremist on any of it. I'm a middle of the road guy. Fancy that. So we see these things. They're out there, you know? And you come back to the Innengard thing, which seems like it's really cut and dry as far as, you know, it's simply an observation of a boundary that's set into place. You have your Frithweb, and then you have everybody outside of the Frithweb. And it's simply a demarcation of where that extends to. And the inner yard, your trusted individuals, those that you hold most dear, i.e. more dear than others, meaning that you actually hold others dear, you just hold these more dear, not only more dear, most dear, means you can hold people dear that are outside of your Innengard, that are outside of your tribe. You can have dear, dear friends that have nothing to do with the tribe. You can have dear, dear friends that are part of your community, that are practically part of your family and still not tied to the tribe. They actually probably fall into your Innengard as far as, you know, Innengard is not synonymous with tribe. Tribe is built of Innengard. But you can actually have people in your tribe who are not Innengard to you. You can have people in your Innengard that are not part of your tribe. It's just that. It's a very personal thing. It's that surrounding circle. It's that group of your elite bodyguard. You know, those individuals that you hold most dear and that you trust more than anybody else. That is your Innengard. So because you've got this inner group, this inner circle, does not necessarily mean anybody outside of it is dead to you. That's what I'm getting at, you know. You've got your friends, your acquaintances that can be near the fence. You've got individuals that are outside the fence that are still, you know, acquaintances to you, people that you interact with. It's kind of a continuum. You've got people that are far out in the field, far out in Innengard, that have no interaction with you whatsoever. You have people that are in Innengard that you have regular interactions with. They're just not part of your inner yard. It's just a boundary, that's all. And it's a way to kind of identify those that are most dear to you. It's a mark of honor for those people that you do owe more to, those that are part of your Frithweb. And so when I talk about my Innengard, it's not to say, you know, forget everybody else, you're dead to me. It's to say, of all the people in the world, I hold these more dear, and it's a position of honor for me. To say someone is part of my Innengard is to honor them in my eyes. It isn't to belittle or to dehumanize anybody outside of that. And that's honestly what it was getting to with the email that I got on this particular subject, was that there seems to be, in one of the extremes on this point of view, this dehumanization of individuals that fall outside of the inner yard. And because of that, and I'm not saying that's, you know, the originator of this email doesn't necessarily fall into this, but in a general zeitgeist of the way these political movements work, because it's becoming a political thing at this point, the reactionary element of this is that because we see this as bad, because you're dehumanizing these other individuals that don't fall into your Innengard mentality, instead of swinging back to middle, we swing way to the other side, and then we throw out everything, because Innengard's bad. It creates, you know, these fictitious divisions between individuals. It's not a fictitious division. It is simply an identifying moniker for those individuals that are closest to you. You say that it doesn't exist, but you too have a group of individuals around you that you hold more dear than anybody else. You may just refuse to use the term Innengard at that point. It doesn't change the fact that's who they are. It also doesn't change the fact that those people outside of your Innengard, in the Innengard, are still human. They are. They're still human. The question then comes down to, what do you owe them? Well, technically speaking, you don't necessarily owe them anything, but to act without, you know, the right, trying not to use specific terminology here, to act in a baleful way to these individuals, to act in a spiteful way to these individuals, actually damages your tribe. It damages your Innengard, because you are going out and damaging their standing in the world, because we still exist in this world. We just exist in this world banded together. That's what tribe is about. It's not about, these are the only people in the world I need. I don't need anybody else out there. Forget you. If you're not part of my tribe, if you're not part of my Innengard, then forget you. I don't need you. Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do, especially in today's society where we don't make everything within the tribe. We don't make everything within the immediate community anymore. We don't farm our own food. We don't make our own clothes. I can't go out and, hit up one of my tribesmen and say, hey, make me another iPhone because I need to film stuff for the interwebs. Well, who are you putting it out on the interwebs for? Well, everybody in the Utengard. It's not you guys. I mean, there's like a handful of people that watch this that I actually count as my Inengard, which, by the way, love you guys. Y'all are awesome. You know who you are. Why do they know who they are? Because I actually have real interactions with them. And when I give them shout-outs like that, they smile, they giggle, they laugh, whatever. I'm thinking of specific ones in that. And then some of them go, really, dude? Really? I'm thinking of one in particular on that. Anyway. Most of you, 1.3 thousand subscribers, 1.3 plus thousand subscribers watching these videos. Any one of my videos gets 100, 200 views within a week, It's not uncommon for me to break the 100 view mark before the end of the day on some of these. Now, don't get me wrong, they don't go viral. I don't get multi-thousand views on my videos. It's not that kind of channel. It's not what it's for. But only like a few of those, a handful of those, do I count in my Inengard. The rest of you are Utengard to me. You're in the outer yard. Does that mean that I hold ill will for you? No. Does that mean you're dead to me? No. No, it doesn't. Am I going to act untowards when you show up and want to speak to me? No. Does it mean that if you show up and, say, hey, I'm homeless, I need a place to stay, am I going to bring you into my own home? Probably not, because I have my Inengard to protect. I have my tribe to protect. If my tribesman comes up and says, hey, dude, couldn't make rent, lost my house, I need a place to stay. Come on, dude, get on your feet. That kind of thing. Hey, I'm moving, I need a hand, can you come help me? Sure, yeah, I'm there. That's what I do for my Inengard. That's appropriate. Somebody in the Utengard comes up and asks the same thing, well, then it gets into a whole different thing. Am I just going to say no outright? No, not necessarily. I mean, if we're there and it's something that I can do, doing so is a good deed. It's a good action. Doing good things for people in the Utengard builds the name and the renown of the Inengard. Imagine that. That's how that works. We all exist within the same system. It is okay to have individual tribal identities. It is okay to have tribe. It is okay to have your Inengard. And to say that it's okay is redundant as all get out, because it's gonna happen. It's not some philosophical thing. It's an observation of social interactions. You surround yourself with people that you like, with people you interact with, and people you trust. They become your Inengard. That's how it is. It's not I'm going to choose to create it. No, it's just simply a name. It's like, that's a phone. I call it a phone. You can call it whatever you want to. It's still a phone. It still does the things that a phone does. Whether you call it Inengard or you call it something else, it's still the same basic thing. It's your inner circle. It's those that you trust more than other people. Not to say that you can't trust other people, but it's more. Now, let's kick back over to the previous video that I did on the Jotun as outsiders. I touched in there on when Thor goes to Utgard Loki about how we don't owe to the outsiders, to anyone outside the Inengard, what we owe to the inside. We've talked about that before here. I just wanted to kind of come back to that here in this particular element, in that we are not beholden to the outside to the level that we are to the inside. That's just simply kind of the way that goes. As I've explained in the rest of this rant, the essence is that we're not beholden to them. We don't owe them. Even the Havamal will give some advice in it, and keep in mind, take the Havamal with a grain of salt as for what it's worth. It has mixture of things, but the gist is that you do not owe them, anyone from the outside, the level of truthfulness, the level of trust that you do someone within the Inengard. You're going to probably take somebody within your Inengard at their word. You don't necessarily do that with people from the Utengard. You don't necessarily trust them the way that you will your own people. You won't necessarily afford them the same level of free reign or benefit of the doubt. There will be some instances where you do. I mean, just because someone's in the yard, like I've said before, just because someone's in the outer yard doesn't mean that you can't trust them or that they're bad people. And being overly suspicious and overly paranoid can actually damage your Gifrain as well. Don't be a jerk to the outer yard just simply because they're the outer yard. That interaction is still at play. That's still, just like I've said throughout the rest of the video, they're people too, and you just don't owe them what you owe the people within your social structure. Within the general social contract, we still have some obligations to each other as basic human beings and things like that. But I'm not going to go cut for somebody who I don't know. I'm going to cut for the people that I love and care for, That's just kind of the way that goes. And that's a problem that we do run into with this globalized nation kind of idea, the big government kind of mentality. There ends up being obligations to the grand populace that don't necessarily jive with a tribal mentality, because it's a different thing. Tribal's more centralized versus the nation state thing that we've got going on with big grand government. I'm not a huge fan of big government. It doesn't tend to work long term. Tend to anyway. Look at history. It's full of pitfalls. Nothing's perfect is what I'm getting at. Even tribal is not perfect. You end up with all kinds of interpersonal issues, people that don't necessarily keep the frith web in mind. You can end up with just as many issues coming from within your frith web because somebody doesn't necessarily get frith, doesn't necessarily uphold their obligations, which is going to be, as I grab my cable again, sorry guys, which is going to be something that we visit in a future video, is a very specific instance of betrayal of frith within a hearth specifically. And it's kind of a touchy subject, but it's one that I think is going to be, I think it'll be interesting and may well, I don't know, we'll see what you guys think about it. It's not referencing anybody in particular that I know, it's just simply a concept and a thing that exists and kind of my view on it. But that's going to be a little bit, I know I'm vaguing the heck out of that, but it is what it is. So anyway, I'm rambling. I need to pull this thing to a close, but I wanted to just kind of drive it home that I'm not a fan of extremism on either side. I'm not a fan of the all-inclusive, no boundaries kind of mentality. I think the boundaries are there for a reason. The boundaries allow us, it's just like names, okay? My name is Eric. Eric refers to me. This is the me that is that is the me of me. And the gist here is that Eric refers to me. It means that anyone else is not Eric. That's just it. The Eric Word-Weaver Sjerven is me. Anybody else is not Eric. There can be another Eric in the world, but that doesn't mean we're the same Eric. We may have some similarities. We may only be similar in name alone, but there will be an addition or an additional delineation that demarcates the difference between this Eric and that Eric. Our skin is boundary between each other. Our consciousness, each is separate and sovereign. So the gist here is that Inengard, Rungard, it's just simply a thing. This is it's a division, but it allows for identity. Without division in a conglomerate whole, without boundary, there is no identity. Everything is one. When everything is special, nothing is special, that kind of thing. If we were all part of the same muddy pit, then no one has identity, no one has culture or anything that makes them them. And then what's the point, But I'm big on tribal identity. I'm big on, that building that sense of tribal self, as it were. The ego of the tribe, not like big ego, but as in like id, ego, super ego kind of thing. Anyway, the essence here is that I do think these divisions and delineations are necessary. I do think they benefit us as a whole. I think that in an extreme on either side, then it breaks down and nothing works. I think that extremism in general just doesn't work. I think it falls in upon itself and eats its own tail. And that's about just about any subject. And it's just a thing. Extremism does not really work. Middle of the road guy, like I've said a million times, I'm a middle of the road guy. That's how I go about things. So I kind of have a middle of the road approach when it comes to Innegard, Utengard, and the responsibilities that we have to those in the outer yard. So that's my gist. In answer to the email that came in about touching base on this, yes, people in the outer yard are people too. We have basic human decency that needs to come into play. We also have the interactive aspect of our yard and their yard and the relationships that build. You can't build renown for your yard unless you interact with other yards. That's how that works. You have to have other yards to have renown for you. But if the outer world is dead to you in general, and you're just basically an asshole to everybody out there beyond your fence, then all you have is inside your fence. And you're going to have a hard time with it like that. Let me put it that way. So anyway, that's going to be it for this particular episode. I've rambled on for a while. It's ragweed season in Texas, so I'm all sniffly and nasally and blah, so please forgive that. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope this answered some questions and touched base on kind of a sticky subject that needed, I think, a little bit of clarification. I don't even know that this video was necessary per se, but at least it gives you some food for thought in that, that I don't really think an extreme on either side is appropriate here. Innegard, Utengard, yeah, it's a thing. You have your inner yard, you have your outer yard. Frithweb is a thing, not necessarily the same thing, but typically, yes, your Innegard consists of your Frithweb, but it may extend a little bit beyond as well. So think about it like that. It's interaction of yards, and that's a key element in heathenry, especially when you look back at my previous video on Jotun, when I'm talking about the interaction of yards and these different yards. That's a thing, and so the more you understand that, the more you start to understand heathen worldview, etc., etc., etc. So, anyway, that's that. We're going to wrap it up here. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoy, again, subscribe, ding the bell, all that stuff. Contact information is below. Thank you all. I really appreciate it. We're coming up on episode 100 here soon. It's going to be a collaboration type video where I've got a couple of user submissions that I'm going to put in there. I'm really excited about that, so stay tuned. That's coming up. If you're watching this post episode 100, go seek it out. I think it's going to be a doozy. Anyway, hail to you all. Thank you. May your hearth fires burn bright. It's hot in here. Oh, it's like 100 degrees outside. Like literally. Yeah, it's not on my face as well. I just washed my face and everything because I'm kind of flushed. That's because I'm filming a couple of these back to back. And it's stuffy in my office right now, but it's like 100 degrees outside in Texas, and I can't necessarily open my window. That would not be good. Not to mention, I work at a boys' home, so it's loud out there. I'm trying to keep the loud out there. So, if I'm a little rosy of cheek, you'll understand that it's just kind of stuffy in here, that's all. And I'm trying to go back to the water. Stay hydrated. Because that's part of the problem, you get all dehydrated and stuff when you're sitting here going through and doing the videos. Well, it's a thing for me, and I like to hydrate and stay up with it so I can keep giving you good content and doing what I do, because that's what I'm here. Goofy. Alright, so today we're going to talk about the Utengard revisit. So, alright. Yeah, this was a viewer request. So, we're live in 3, 2, 1, let's jam. Just lined up again. Alright, back to the Utengard video. Post-interruption, it's been a little bit. We're going to jump back to the, like I said, in the Jotun video cut. So, skip back and edit that out. And yeah, so... sinuses and stuff. My face is still kind of flushed, but it's not too bad. Stuffy in here. I can't breathe. Sniffly, ragweed, dust. Lots of dust. So anyway, let's give this a go. Ready? And in 3, 2, 1. Let's jam. Sinuses are killing me, man. Dang. All right. We're not going to try and do another one after this. We're going to take a break because I can't breathe. And the AC kicks on. I'm going to sneeze, I think. This one's not going to have very many bloopers because it's mostly me hacking, snorting, and wheezing.